Something remarkable occurred in that arena in Milan. Not a stumble, not an error, but something far more subtle than either. The judges noticed it first, then the broadcast booth fell silent, and finally the crowd sensed it too, because in the most pressure-filled 4 minutes in figure skating, Alysa Liu was genuinely smiling. Not a performance smile, but a real one, the kind someone wears when they are truly having a good time. That was the strangest part of all, because everyone else appeared terrified, and championship finals are not supposed to resemble joy, they are supposed to resemble sheer survival. The stillness inside the venue that evening felt dense, not loud or theatrical, just thick, the kind that settles over thousands of spectators when they sense something significant is about to unfold. It was February 2026 in Milan, and the Women's Olympic Figure Skating Championship had arrived at its concluding performances. By that point in the evening, audiences had already witnessed extraordinary routines featuring quadruple jumps, near-flawless spins, and programs executed with surgical precision. Yet the atmosphere surrounding the final skater felt distinctly different. Alysa stepped onto the ice unhurriedly, almost casually, as though she were entering a practice facility rather than an Olympic championship. Her posture did not match the tension filling the arena, because most skaters at that moment carry visible heaviness in their shoulders. You can observe it in the way they inhale before the music begins, years and sometimes decades of sacrifice compressed into 4 minutes. But Alysa appeared relaxed, perhaps even quietly amused. One television commentator softly remarked before the music started, noting how completely composed she appeared. That composure was remarkable, given the enormous stakes involved, since no American woman had claimed Olympic gold in figure skating since 2002, meaning 24 years and an entire generation of skaters had come and gone without changing that fact. And the weight surrounding that long absence had become its own invisible opponent that every American skater carried onto the Olympic stage. When the opening notes filled the arena, Alysa pushed off the ice with a smooth, almost effortless glide, and those first few seconds revealed everything. No hesitation, no visible nerves, no sign of an athlete skating carefully to avoid errors, just movement that resembled dancing more than competing. Her first jump, a triple combination that elite skaters rehearse thousands of times in training, landed cleanly, and instead of immediately shifting into the next element with rigid concentration, she allowed the movement to breathe, extending her glide with loose arms and relaxed shoulders, looking less like someone executing choreography and more like someone listening to music. As the routine continued building through spins, footwork sequences, and additional clean triple jumps, audiences inside the arena began noticing something beyond the technical consistency: her expression. Most Olympic skaters maintain what coaches call a performance face, focused, controlled, and slightly distant, a mask concealing nerves. But Alysa wore no such mask, and at one moment, after landing a jump slightly off-center, she made a quick, playful expression resembling a tiny whoops reaction. Cameras caught it, commentators laughed, not because she had erred, but because she responded like a human being rather than a machine, and the audience reacted instantly with growing applause. Something about the routine felt lighter than the others that evening, less tense and more alive, and as the program reached its midpoint, the energy inside the arena began shifting. Instead of anxious silence following each landing, spectators started cheering mid-routine, clapping between elements, building momentum, because they were beginning to realize that Alysa Liu was not skating like someone protecting a score, but like someone genuinely savoring the moment. Backstage, the atmosphere felt entirely different from the energy gathering in the arena, with several finalists gathered near a monitor showing the live broadcast, watching not for enjoyment, but because every landing shifted the scoreboard's equation. What they observed on screen was unusual, not because Alysa was attempting the most difficult program of the evening, she was not, since other skaters had earlier attempted quadruple jumps carrying higher base value and higher risk, but because her landings kept moving forward with what coaches describe as flow, suggesting she was skating without tension, without fear. And loose skaters are dangerous competitors, because when fear disappears, consistency improves. Earlier in the evening, several athletes had approached the ice with expressions appearing almost frozen, one spending nearly 30 seconds at center ice, breathing slowly before the music started, another visibly shaking her hands to release nerves. None of that was unusual, because Olympic finals compress years of training, childhood sacrifice, family expectations, and national pressure into 4 minutes, balanced on the edge of a blade. But Alysa Liu had already done something few Olympic contenders ever experience. She had walked away from the sport once, retiring in 2022 at just 16 years old, stunning the skating world at an age when many athletes are just entering their prime, explaining later that skating had stopped feeling joyful and the years of competition had transformed the sport into something heavy and unrecognizable. For nearly 2 years, she had lived outside elite sport entirely. College classes, friendships, travel, campus life, late-night conversations, ordinary days that most athletes never experience during their competitive years. And that distance from expectations, from pressure, from the constant internal voice questioning whether every performance is sufficient, changed something fundamental inside her. When she quietly returned to skating in early 2024 at a public rink in California with no cameras, no federation officials, and no Olympic expectations, she was not there to train, but to test whether the feeling of skating still existed for her. And skating slowly at first through simple turns and edges, she eventually felt something familiar return. The rhythm, the sensation of speed, the small burst of excitement when movement connects perfectly with music in your mind. And it was not the pressure she remembered, but the joy. That rediscovery changed everything, because when athletes return to a sport by genuine choice rather than obligation, fear loosens its grip, expectations fade, and the performance becomes personal again. And by the time Alysa quietly began training more seriously, coaches and friends watching her skate noticed she appeared lighter, less rigid, more expressive. The difference was not technical, but emotional. Back in Milan, as Alysa's program reached its second half, the arena's energy had already begun shifting, because Olympic audiences are experienced, and they could feel this performance building towards something. She accelerated into the second half with the same rhythm she had begun with, no visible tension, no slowing down, and her triple-lets combination landed with a clean exit that flowed directly into the next step sequence without breaking speed, prompting a commentator to remark with quiet surprise that she appeared to be gaining energy rather than losing it. Her footwork sequence accelerated with rhythm, her spins centered perfectly with increasing speed, and another clean jump sent a small spray of ice into the air as she continued accelerating across the rink. By this point, the technical panel already recognized that if she completed remaining elements successfully, her score would reach territory capable of challenging for gold. Backstage, competing athletes watching the monitor had grown noticeably quieter, their mental calculations becoming less optimistic, because Alysa had shown no significant weakness, no shaky landing, no stumble, no visible nerves, and when the final jump arrived and she landed it cleanly, the arena's reaction was not cautious applause, but a burst of noise, because thousands of people understood simultaneously that the routine had succeeded. Yet Alysa did not celebrate or raise her arms dramatically. She simply continued skating through the program's final choreography with the same relaxed rhythm she had carried from the beginning. And when the music ended, the arena erupted with standing spectators and thunderous applause. During the brief pause beside the rink while judges finalized scores, Alysa sat with her coach, appearing almost curious rather than anxious, and when the numbers appeared on the scoreboard, a moment of silence preceded an eruption of noise, because the total placed Alysa Liu at the top of the standings, Olympic gold, the first American woman to claim the Olympic figure skating title in 24 years, ending a drought that had hovered over American skating since 2002, meaning 24 years and an entire generation of skaters had come and gone without changing that fact, and the weight surrounding that long absence had become its own invisible opponent that every American skater carried onto the Olympic stage. While audiences remembered most about the routine was not the technical details, but the feeling, Alysa Liu had skated like someone genuinely enjoying herself, and in a sport where pressure typically defines the atmosphere, that difference felt almost revolutionary. In the weeks following the games, athletes from other sports began mentioning Alysa Liu in interviews, some saying her story reminded them why they had originally begun competing, others speaking about returning to sports they had abandoned years earlier, and journalists began referring to it informally but powerfully as the Alysa Liu effect, the idea that stepping away from something you love and then freely choosing to return can transform how you experience it entirely.